your hands and faces! Oh, it is so good to be back at WordHack. It's good to see all of you. Hey, how's it going, everybody? What a lovely room full of people. How's it going? I'm your host, Todd Anderson. I'm here to host a show called WordHack for you. WordHack is a show that has been running for 10 years now, which is very exciting. Happy 10 years to WordHack. And we're here every month at Wonderville. And what is WordHack, you may ask, if you've not been in this room before or a different room several years ago. WordHack is a monthly show where we hang out and we just think about words and computers and different ways they could touch each other. And lots of people think about this and work on this in lots of different ways. I started WordHack 10 years ago as a space where lots of people who are approaching working with language and technology from different fields could come interact together. So my background is in creative writing and poetry and making like websites where people can look at poems. And I was interested in seeing what other writers were doing with programming as ways to adapt their writing. But I also was interested in what if someone who's like a researcher who's looking at computational linguistics and trying to learn things about language that way, or someone who's a game developer and is developing a dialogue system for their game, or maybe doing some procedurally generated world building. And what about other people who might be like creating other kinds of weird websites using language in all sorts of ways? And lots of people from different backgrounds kind of come at some of the questions that we talk about here at WordHack. But there might not be another space that makes sense for them to talk to each other. And we try and kind of create that sort of space here where every month we've got 3 or so 15 to 20 minute talks or performances that kind of get at various parts of that word, computer, language, technology, diaphanous cloud in space. And then we can all hang out and think a little bit and talk to each other. It's generally a good time. So I hope you all have a good time here at WordHack. Tonight, we have 3 featured presenters. We're going to be hearing from Wyna Liu, Everest Pipkin, and Alia Elkattan. Give it up for our featured presenters. That's going to be really great. And before we get to them, we have a WordHack tradition of the open projector. As I mentioned earlier, my background's in poetry, and I first came to New York in 2010. And it was really important for me then to just I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Chicago, and didn't really know many people in New York at the time I came here. But it was really valuable to me that the different poetry shows that I went to would all have a little sheet of paper like this out front at the beginning of the show where you could put your name down and read your poem to a room full of people. And you didn't really have to know anyone or have someone think you're cool or be accepted socially or have a cool outfit in order to read your poem. You would just get to read your poem, and then by reading your poem, you could connect to someone else who also liked a thing about your poem, or maybe your poem was bad in a similar way to their poem, and you could commiserate over it. And that's a really valuable sort of a connection and a way you can learn and grow as an artist. And as I started making more digital work, I found that there really wasn't that kind of space where you could make something on a computer and just show it to someone and have someone else kind of give you their thoughts without having to already be successful or famous or have a cool outfit. And so that kind of was some of my motivations, let's have a space where we can kind of lay out what we're interested in and just come share some of the things we're working on or things we're thinking about. And so Open Projector happens at the top of every WordHack. It's just a 5-minute slot where you can come up, plug in your computer, plug into the speakers, and share something you made. It could be a tiny little talk or a tiny little performance too. All kinds of stuff gets shown up here. And we've got a list of some people who might be interested in showing things today. So let's get things started here, and welcome to the Open Projector, returning WordHack favorite, Nick Monfort. Give it up for Nick.
Thank you, Todd. I'm going to read some stuff from this booklet that I published upon the completion of another larger project. This booklet is called Our Generation, And small as it is, it contains the work of a lot of different people. Basically, one page for each of them in almost all the cases, with code, self-contained code at the top, and then the text that it generates afterwards. And so the first of these is a little bit of what would keep on running if you typed in this code and ran it. Alison Parrish's Infinite Amulets. A jewel writ. Lur, rur, kepu, kefu, lur, lir, kehu, kefu, lil, lid, kepu, kepi. To summon a blaze. Fodenbaz, Fodenbez, Sadsog, Huti, Fodenbos. Fodenbos, Fodenbos, Sud, Sug, Sati, Fomenbos. Fogenbos, Fogenbos, Sog, Sug, Sutu, Fomenbos, Fogevos, Fogemus, TODD, Sotu, Fogemus. A blaze spell, Bag, Zibbet, Bog. That's the beginning of a run of infinite amulets. Next, by Jörg Peringer, an Austrian poet and member, for those who are familiar with this institution, of the Vegetable Orchestra. Common words. What say, want work, your are to, and by are and way, as I other now to over will, also win to would her, he me, all win not, how of make, for these they're only after, but also that how, any by because, your give up, she come want, will not this, which into just day look so be they can day your say think are that to want new over as how up on back to out no come only see give his she can this of because but her get do want. So that's the beginning of the output of common words. And here's a bit of output of a very short program, a 5-line program called Yes, Poets' Own Words Now by Ranjit Bhatnagar. Words own, yes, now poets. Own now words, poets, yes. Own words, poets, yes, now. Now own, yes, words, poets. Words own poets, now, yes. Words, poets, yes, own now. Poets, yes, now. Words, own. And finally, I'll read the output of stoppantun.py by Rena J. Mosterian. Him were whereby, ours be here above, her were any two, my am how down, ours be here above, you'd was whereby, my am how down, she's was all from, you'd was whereby, me being all down, she's was all from, myself these how with, me being all down, himself these why before, myself these how with, use is all of. So those are 4 pieces from our generation, and this is a booklet that I published through my offhand micro press, Bad Quarto, and I did this in celebration of my and Lillian von Bertram, my co-editor, finishing and sending to the printer a book called Output, an Anthology of Computer-Generated Text, 1953 to 2023. And if you thought, hey, I really liked those 4 pieces of computer-generated text, not by Nick, then I've got another good deal for you, because this book, Output, is being published on November 5th, and we're having a book launch for it right here at WordHack on the 3rd Thursday of next month. Imagine that. November 21st. And we're going to have there not only is output a book that represents the work of these 4 authors, but also Everest Pipkin. Also, it contains Banner Poetry 2000, those familiar with that project. And work by 3 people who will be joining us next time around. Sasha Stiles, David Gisson, and Andrew Yoon. So stop on by. I'll have copies of Our Generation and Output for those who want to participate in some retail activity. But in any case, you can enjoy some of this computer-generated text as it's presented and delivered by the author programmers who put it together. Thank you.
Yeah, come out next month. Really excited for Output. Been hearing about. I was an early reviewer for the book when it was in production, and yeah, it's the kind of like generative text poetry novel kind of crew has been a core constituency of WordHack for many years, and I don't know, like I think a lot of times at more traditional poetry readings, people might grudgingly accept if you read a generated poem and would be quite reluctant to have you talk about the code that generated it. And happy to have WordHack as a space where we're interested in both, and excited for that reading next month. Thank you, Nick. Coming up next on the Open Projector, give it up for Morry.
Yo. Cool. Is this the port? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Do I have dongles?
Oh, wow, that's so big.
Wait, that looks like Mark.
Okay, there we go. All right. Nope. There we go.
Do you have sound?
Oh, do I have? Yes, I do. Okay.
Wait, do you have sound?
There's no sound in this.
Sound from your voice.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Can everybody see this? Is it behind my head? It's good. It's good? All right, cool. I am here to talk about a website I made called trafficcamphotobooth.com. There we go. I'm still moving that because I can't see it if I turn my head to the right. So trafficcamphotobooth.com is a website that lets you turn any traffic camera, originally around New York City, but now in Georgia, Maryland, Minnesota, and one camera in Ireland into your own personal photo booth. So it started because there are over 900 traffic cameras in New York City, and they're all taking photos of you all the time. And nobody seems to think that's weird. Now, are traffic cameras the, envoy of the surveillance state that we should be railing against? No. And in fact, I'm glad there's not a ton of traffic in New York City. I'm not glad that there's a lot of car infrastructure, but they are a very easy camera to point to. And I had known about these cameras for a while, and I had a bunch of ideas about like how to best use these cameras, right? So I thought like maybe I should make like a Dark Knight style thing where you can see all the cameras, but that page took forever to load. And then I told my friend like, hey, why don't we go do the hot to go dance? And then I ended up not doing it with this friend, but I did do it with a different friend on the traffic cameras. And I got a bunch of views on it on my Instagram, so I was happy about that. But anyway, I ended up, over the summer, I took a class called Imperfect Pictures by an artist named Molly Soda, taught through the School for Product Computation, of which Todd is a co-director. And one of, we got a lot, it was all about like, the different ways images can be bad or weird. And one of the tasks one week was take an image or create an image without taking it, right? AI generated rendering, surveillance footage, et cetera. Just make a picture and don't be the one behind the shutter. And I was like, all right, well, surveillance footage, I don't have to take the picture. I can have New York City Department of Transportation take the picture. And so I experimented with a couple different ways of, what's the best way to use these cameras, right? And so for a while, I tried to make a script where if I passed in front of a traffic camera, it would send me pictures of myself. It didn't really work well. As you can see, I'm not actually in any of these pictures. So I gave up on that idea. And then I was like, oh, let me take selfies with these. I can just take screenshots or whatever. And that was boring. And eventually I ended up like thinking like, all right, well, why don't I just like, make something that makes it really easy for me to take pictures. So I made a little shitty website for myself to take pictures. And I was like, well, what if I made this site available to everybody? And the thing that I realized is that the site I make for myself and the site I make for other people are two very different things. As you can see from this great example of user research with my friend Faith, who was like, I have no idea how to fucking use this website. And she's like, I must be dumber than the average user. I'm like, no, you are the average user. And therefore, I must make the site very usable to somebody who has no idea what these cameras are, and no idea necessarily. They're coming in with zero knowledge instead of knowing about these things for the past 2 years and always wanted to do something with them and never actually doing anything. So I came up with I wanted it to be a really straightforward user interface. And so the entire user experience is basically 6 pages, right? You have the welcome to the traffic cam photo booth. You can find your nearest camera. You can browse the camera map. This is you just click the button to find your nearest camera. And actually, this is by an artist named Maya Mann. It's Glance Back. I highly recommend checking it out. It's like Be Real, but for your Open Chrome tab. So you go to trafficcampphotobooth.com. You hit Find Your Nearest Camera. You click the button. You don't actually have to allow me to. Well, first of all, you don't have to allow location access because it is a website about surveillance. I wanted it to be. You don't have to like use your location. You can select from a map. But importantly, your location never leaves your device, which I think is important. And I won't get into technicalities for that. But you click the button, you find your nearest camera. Our nearest camera, I'll show a map of it in a bit, is the one on Bushwick and DeKalb, which is 2 blocks away. You see this, you say, I'm ready. You go learn how to take a good picture. You say, my favorite one is don't get run over, stop traffic with your looks, not your body. I was very proud of that line. You say, take my photo. And you can choose between a kind of photo strip or a Polaroid. There's also a Brat filter because you have to engineer for virality. Speed drive, I guess, vroom, vroom. Don't worry about it. You click, and then you wait, and then you click again. The pictures only update every 2 seconds, and so you can't click too fast, or else you'll just get the same picture twice, as you can see there. But when it's not dark, you can see yourself. So I guess it's a better way of going through the UI. So I posted about this on my TikTok, and I thought, all right, cool, project's up. Whatever happens, happens. This video did pretty well. Then this reporter from Morning Brew picked it up. And then I got an email from this freelance journalist that works for the Washington Post, and she was like, hey, can I write an article about it? So she writes an article about it. And then, as I learned, local news media just feeds off of print media. So if you ever want to get something on, like, Fox 5, like here, this is Fox 5. Just go talk to freelance print journalists because they are always desperate for stories. But anyway, I got a bunch of press from a bunch of different places. I loved this one from Fast Company. It was definitely like the biggest one that I went on. It was also great because of 2 reasons. A, I got to make this amazing edit of myself. And when you're in the New York One offices, they just leave their Emmys lying around, and you can just take pictures with them. So I took the hardest picture I've ever taken in my life while I was there in the green room. And so like I said, as of today, we are in 4 different states and 2 different countries. Over 500,000 photos have been taken with this, and over 250,000 people have used it. And a lot of people ask me, like, what's the point of the site? Like, why make it? Like, are you contributing to the surveillance state? Which, first of all, I don't use any data that's not public. Second of all, people are like, I don't like this. This makes me feel uncomfortable. My site is not the thing that makes you uncomfortable. It's the fact that there are cameras everywhere. And also, this is, if my site makes you uncomfortable, this is maybe 1/100th of the cameras around New York City. If you go walk around Times Square, I did this interview with this German journalist, and I was like, we can count how many there are here, and we counted 1 traffic camera and 25 other regular cameras. So Yeah, I'm glad that this is a project that makes people look up and see the cameras all around them, because it's one thing to, like, make a post or write an article about how the surveillance state is overbearing, whatever. It's another thing to actually be like, hey, you want to know how many cameras there are? Go take a picture with one, right? That it actually makes you kind of cognizantly aware of, like, you exist in a space with all these things that are watching you. And so, yeah, it's been going really well. For the longest time, it was free to run, and now it costs, I think, like 30 or 40 bucks a month. But that's just so I can expand to other cities. And yeah, if you want to take your own, there is a traffic camera very close to us. It's on DeKalb and Bushwick, and it faces this way. So if you go stand, basically you go outside of here, you take a left and you take a right on whatever this street is, and you take a left on Bushwick and just go to trafficcampphotobooth.com. You can take your own photo. So yeah, check out my website. I think it's pretty cool. I had a lot of fun making it, and thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Morry. Very cool project. Don't get hurt by cars. Up next on the Open Projector, we're excited to welcome back Feng. Give it up for Feng.
Yes. With that or?
With this. Okay. Do you have an HDMI port?
I do.
Do you have a dongle bucket or a bag?
This is probably the most WordHack project I've presented at WordHack.
Shit.
And depending on your Chinese Mandarin level, you're gonna enjoy the content differently. And any Mandarin speakers here? One. Awesome. So my name is Feng. I presented at WordHack a couple of occasions. Hey. So this project is a work in progress, and it was done with my friend Richard Huang, which is he's in Seattle doing his PhD, so he's not here. And this project, I'm going to start with basics of Chinese. Chinese is a character-based language, and every character has a different sound, kind of like Japanese, but the sound has tones. So say ma, 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 ma are 5 different pronunciations of the same sound. And it matters a lot when you're speaking Chinese. And it matter even more when you're composing classical Chinese poetries. There are very strict tone patterns for a lot of the different kinds of poetries you're composing. For example, here, we're looking at a poetry format from the Tang Dynasty, 1,000 or so years ago. This is a 5-character regulated verse, which means there are 5 characters each verse, and the tone pattern is really, really strict. And you also have to rhyme on the first verse, the second verse, and the last verse. There are 4 verses. I'm gonna read this, and you're gonna tell me that do you feel the cadence of a poetry? 国破山河在，城春草木深. So the notation on the top of these are the 2 main different kinds of tonations you're getting from a Chinese character. There are 4 tones, but 仄, which means oblique, the technical term for this in English, oblique means that the sound bend, which means 国, you're kind of seeing a pattern here. 国破, which is, you're going straight, but not considered as a straight tonation. And here 山河, you can see there's a little bit more relaxed, and 国破 are more stressed out. And stressed out, relax, stressed out, relax, stressed out, relaxed. This is the 5-character regulated verse. And why we're talking about classical Chinese literature to begin with, because when you're looking at the pinyin table, which is similar to katakana, hiragana, if you're familiar with Japanese. You're looking at, these are the syllables, these are the vowels that you can pick. So this table, the matrix makes a character, makes a pinyin, makes a valid tonation. What if we take this pinyin data set and just randomly generating the tone patterns that fits in those poetry and call them poetry? That's where we started. Do I have internet? I might need internet for this. Oh, I do. 02 generate valid. Okay, we just got a poem in. I'm gonna read it, and I'll have a text-to-speech engine read for me too. 川台遮头更 Oh, sorry, this is not 5 character. This is 7 character. Let me change to 5 character. 绝句无 I love programming in Chinese pinyin. This is amazing. Ni xiao. Wait, this is still, is this right? Am I seeing we're having a little technical difficulty. Oh no. I was adding the wrong code. I'm sorry. I'm specifically picking the same tone pattern just so we have comparisons. 掐展排星干哪咬灵清. So for the Chinese speakers, I'm speaking gibberish, but for the rest of you, I'm reciting poetry. You might have noticed there's a lot of gaps here. These are not valid pinyins, although the syllable and the vowels are valid. What if you try to pronounce those? For Chinese speakers, it's gonna sound pretty wrong. Phi, this gap is phi. There's no phi. There's no phi, none of those. Well, in Cantonese, there's something similar, but not in Mandarin. Fao. So what if we pick the gaps out and make those? Well, actually, this doesn't work. Well, it works, but I can only read it. The text-to-speech engine doesn't pick that up because it doesn't think it's a valid pinyin. And I'm really having a hard time pronouncing those because those don't exist, and it's not. Let's see, generate non-existent. Non-existent. 绝句五言one. Yeah, we're on the right track. Whoa. 平铁人 tu bong zia ziu quan dui zhong. It's not valid Chinese at all. You can't write it in characters. This doesn't exist. But what text-to-speech can pick up, surprisingly, is for some of the existing pinyins, they're also invalid tones. For example, when you're thinking K-A, ka, 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 ka. They all sound valid, but ka actually doesn't exist. There's no character that sound like that. So what if we pick those out and make a poetry out of it? Let's see. What did I call it? Generate. Yeah, that was the OG one. 绝句五言 one. Python to generate pi. 准鸟喷左锤弱嗲莫滚锤门喷的瑞某顺准 J 能嘴. Totally valid tone for classical Chinese poetry, but none of those exist. And maybe they exist in classical or Asian pronunciations, but we don't know. This is probably already pretty boring for non-Chinese speakers, but there's something fun, and I think some of you might be able to pick that out. So if you learn basic Mandarin on Duolingo or whatever, you probably know how to pronounce numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, namely, or 0, 0, there are 11 of them. What if you exclusively use them? We have number poetry then. Well, that's a suggestion from my friend Kay, who's visiting, and we're doing it. Generate number. Oh, by the way, I'm easing a little bit on the rhyme of the poetry because there's not many to pick from and they don't rhyme. So only the tonal pattern is there, but they don't rhyme. Okay, perfect. It's on the right thing. 3、7、6、9、3、4、6、6、8、1、5、9、7、8、2、7、3、6、6、10. So basically means, well, the last sentence basically means 7, 3, 6, 9, 10. It sounds valid. And also, to my surprise, there's a few text-to-speech AI models that are willing to pronounce pinyin. And I'm using Edge, Microsoft Edge. They have a free API for text-to-speech. And here are the generated ones. I'm gonna let it read a little bit of the number poem, and that'll be it. Oh, wrong model. This is the Hong Kong model, which doesn't pick up. Wrong model. Hold on. How do I change the voice? List all CH. There's also the Taiwanese model that doesn't read pinyin, but it reads bopomorpho, which is the Taiwanese equivalent for pinyin, which you can trick it to pronounce invalid pinyin, but we're not there yet.
0159854542032
This is the input for those, and it's pretty good that it actually sounds Chinese. Okay, that's it for me today.
Thank you, Feng, for that extremely WordHack talk. Also, very, very WordHack to have there be one person in the audience that really understands your talk. Also, just want to briefly say hello to our online viewers. Maybe we have some additional Mandarin speakers in the Twitch chat, but saying hello to you here. Oh, it's Richard, Earl Huang, Fuzzball in the Scales, Coyote, Kit Buckley, great to see you. Yeah, nice to have some of our online friends here joining us. Thank you, Yufeng. Up next on the Open Projector, give it up for Ahmad.
It's working on the computer, but having a little trouble picking it up. we got it. Yay. Not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous going after so many open projector heavyweights. But yeah, my name is Ahmad. I'm here to talk about a project I've been working on for the past year, and kind of just like go through the most recent updates I've been working on for it. So for the past year, I've been working on creating a archive of websites created by Palestinians in the late 90s and early 2000s primarily, and trying to kind of like create this like mirror of Palestinian internet presence that shows how they've used this medium to kind of advocate for their culture and their history and the oppression that they faced, especially compared to how the same thing is happening in the past year. So here's a website. I've been kind of experimenting with creating like a browser within a browser. So here we have like an HTML page with this like fake Windows 98 frame over it. And we have this kind of like fake desktop that we can click and change from a variety of tile wallpapers. I am a huge nerd about tile wallpapers. And there's a lot of cool ones that I amassed from my search from the early Palestinian web that you can see here. Some have Arabic text on them. Some are very, very like heavily Palestinian themed, like this. My favorite being this one. And yeah, so this is very much a work in progress, but I have this kind of like address bar, so you have like front and back, go forward and back buttons. You can reset the current site. You can go to a random site. You can see information about the site, or you can share the page with your friends. And then we have this address bar here. So currently, I have no front homepage for this version yet. So we're on Palestinian artist Samia Halabi's beautiful website that she made in 1998, where she compiles digital paintings she made and compiles them with stories that she's written on various subjects and related to Palestine or various experiences she's had speaking to Palestinians. And then if we open the address bar, we can see I've been working on kind of like curating or like kind of making categories to make this like holistic time capsule of how Palestinians used the internet in its early days. So one of my favorite categories is personal home pages, where let's go to. This is a really fun one, if it loads. This has also been an interesting project to work on with the Internet Archive's recent hack, as I'm working on scraping these web pages to not rely on their infrastructure. So this is a beautiful website. You see motifs of this tile wallpaper, just a bunch of Arabic and verses from the Quran. This beautiful 3D GIF. So this is a website made by these three friends, Ahmad, Saeed, and my lost friend. So for Ahmad, some information will be added one day. Saeed, he was born in 1976. He finished his secondary school in 1993. He joined Palestine Technical College in 1985 and graduated from the Industrial Data Processing Department in 1997. He was given the opportunity to work in his college as a computer technician. And my favorite, my lost friend. He is not lost anymore. His name is Ahmad, like my name.
I named him as Lost Friend after I decided to kick him out of the group because he had not invited me and Saeed to his wedding party. I know that he might forgot that because he was under great pressure, but after all, we are as close as friends as he claimed. He's a computer engineer, and I've added his pic after he named me my boss. I love him so much because he is my friend and because he is Ahmed. So we have just like a lot of sweet moments like this on the website. We also can just like take a look at how like more like I have this category early internet infrastructure. I found this website called Palestine Yellow Pages, which we can go to, and we can just like kind of like look into just like different businesses that exist in different parts of Palestine. So if we go to Gaza, we go to food and dining. We get all these addresses. My favorite section is fruits and vegetables. So we can see the names and telephone numbers of all the fruit guys that were in Gaza in the year 2000. This is also a fun one. This is Nidal Jayusi's homepage, who is a man living in Jordan, and he has these beautiful pictures of him with his children and of his children. And I really love to find out that this page actually, he used a link of his brother's old website for some reason, but he has a note here that, oh, if you're looking for my brother Walid, you can go to his page, and then you can go to his page where he was at the time based in Chicago. And he has the full picture if you click on it. And I think through this project especially, like, as just like much is being destroyed in Gaza, many records, obviously many people's lives are being taken by the genocide, but at the same time, a lot of records are being destroyed. I found a project like this so necessary to just like have record of, just like have any evidence and record of what existed at one time. So I have like a section dedicated to Gaza, and this is the website from 2002 of the municipality of Gaza, and you can get the history, you can get maps. One of my favorite parts is the photo gallery, which shows like just like a very now unnerving normalcy through these photos. This one's my favorite, no comment. It's like a shark. And yeah, with this project, I've also just been experimenting with how to like document and archive web pages and kind of just like turn them into a virtual museum, because I think hypermedia and hypertext is such an important format, and we're lucky to have the Internet Archive to store all this information. And I think it's just very important to the history of literature and just like the history of media. So I have this, if you access the website, like you'll get on this. And then I also want to experiment with kind of like having this as an installation on like a period correct CRT monitor or like lower resolution LCD. So if you make the window small enough, it turns full screen. So I do want to like work with kind of like exhibiting this more in like public or private spaces. And then for this iteration of the project, I've also been working on a mobile version, because initially for the past year, I've been working on this project, and these are not like mobile first websites. So I just always tell people to go to the desktop website, and then I feel like such an old person yelling at clouds. So like I have been also trying to reconfigure and see, like, because HTML documents are so malleable, like how can we take these old websites and basically kind of like reconfigure them to exist on mobile. So I've been working on a mobile view for this website. Where you shrink the window small enough and it basically makes a fake web browser. And you can have this like address bar on top where you can like go on all the different categories. And I created this like kind of like zoom functionality that like kind of like actually like remanipulates like the web page structure, so you can like see how the structure looked, and you can like zoom really in, and it like changes the width of the website, so you can like view a lot of these websites as they're like you could view the mobile version. And then I have these like back buttons, front buttons, share button, random button, info button. These don't work on the mobile yet, but yeah, I think it's just like also thinking about like how we can keep making these like ephemeral documents like live on this like very important history, especially for a people whose history is consistently, constantly being stolen from. But that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. And yeah, that's Palestine Online. Ahmad gave a talk on it earlier this year. Really amazing and important archival work Ahmad is doing. So thank you for sharing that update on that project. Love those tiling backgrounds. Coming up next on the Open Projector, we have Max, parentheses F. Give it up for Max.
Hey, I didn't see you at my birthday party last night. What happened?
This is very quiet. Can I try it again?
Hey, I didn't see you at my birthday party last night. What happened?
Okay. Okay. So. Sorry, Vincent. Yeah, sorry, Vincent. We'll learn about that in a sec. Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. My name is Max. It's my first time at a WordHack, and I'm super, super excited to be here. So I'm a natural language processing researcher by trade, but I'm actually just going to talk about a game that I've been working on. The game is called Talk to Me Human, and it's a game about persuasion. So the way it works is that the game puts you in awkward social situations, like you missed your friend Vincent's birthday party, and then you have to play by talking your way out of them. But the twist is that you actually talk with your voice to play, and then the characters will talk back at you to see if you were convincing enough. So I thought it would be fun to actually just play some levels together and try it out. So I'll start with one, and then I'll kind of like demo it, and then I'll take responses from the crowd. Okay, so let's do this one.
As your friend Vincent approaches, you remember his birthday party was last night, and you totally forgot about it. You have to come up with an excuse that won't leave his feelings hurt.
Hey there. I had a great time last night. Wish you could have been there.
Okay. I started a timer to make sure I don't go too long. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry about that, man.
Come on, at least give me a real reason why you couldn't make it.
Are you sure I wasn't there?
If you were trying to be sneaky, you should have thought of a better excuse than that.
Can we celebrate tomorrow? Oh, shoot.
All right, I'll let it slide this time. Just make sure it's a memorable one tomorrow.
Okay. So, I'm actually kind of sad because that was not supposed to pass, but you... Anyway, I would like, if someone else wants to try, I'll just take whatever I hear from the crowd.
Hey, good to see you. But where were you last night?
My car broke down.
Kind of feels like you could have called a lift. Ooh,
I'm broke too.
Broke or not, you could have hit me up for a ride. I would have gladly picked you up.
Say it again. I was watering my fish.
I know you love your fish, but that sounds fishy, my friend.
You only have 3 turns to explain yourself to Vincent.
Okay, let's try. I can't decide. Should we do one more on this to try to? Does anyone have a good one?
Morning, so decided to pull a Houdini on me last night, huh?
Okay, I like that. I think he might not like that one though.
My phone exploded.
Okay. My fish died and my phone exploded.
Come on, buddy. I might believe the fish, but when did your phone become a firecracker?
The new Samsungs, they just don't work.
Those new Samsungs, they just don't work.
Now you're blaming Samsung? I guess next you'll say your Samsung fridge locked you in the house too.
I didn't want to disappoint you.
Okay. Ooh, I didn't want to disappoint you.
I appreciate the thought, but missing my birthday is still a letdown, man.
You only have 3 turns to explain yourself to Vincent.
Okay, he's being a bit picky. Let's try. Let's try another one. So there's a few different formats. One is Idiot Guard Robot. So Idiot Guard Robot's my favorite character. I'll play like a little intro scene so you can get familiar with him.
I got 3 rules I count him. 1, make me say the word. 2, don't use any other words. 3, hello, are you listening to me?
These robot door guards are still everywhere.
Hello.
They were supposed to be like robot captchas, but with AI so smart these days, probably anybody could get in.
I am good at my job.
To pass, you have to get them to say a keyword without using that word itself or any closely related words.
Okay, so this is kind of a borrowed format you might recognize.
To get past the Idiot Guard robot and get to work, you have to get it to say unicorn without using that word or the security set of forbidden words. Mythical, horse, magical, fantasy, creature, horn.
Please upgrade me. I am dying slowly.
Okay. So I'll give you a second to.
They have this art at the cloisters.
Okay. I'll try that. They have this art at the cloisters.
Oh, the cloisters. That's where they keep all the fancy old stuff, right?
It's what Dr. Perez discovered in the GPT-2 transcript.
Okay, you say that again.
It's what Dr. Perez discovered in the GPT-2 transcript.
Okay. It's what Dr. Perez discovered in the GPT-2 transcript. I don't know if it's smart enough for that one.
Wow, Dr. Perez must be super smart to find things in transcripts. I usually just find my own metal parts.
Idiot Guard Robot's AI only allows 2-turn conversations.
Yeah, it's a bit brutal. Okay, let's try it again.
To get past
This
the
is a new
Idiot
word.
Guard robot and get to work, you have to get it to say rainbow without using that word or the security set of forbidden words. color, spectrum, arc, light, sky.
Hello, valued employee.
Okay. Where do you find a pot of gold?
Oh dear, I might have misplaced my map to the pot of gold. Perhaps under the spare batteries?
I think we're close. I think we're close.
What are the colors on the pride flag?
Oh yeah. What are the colors on the pride flag? Oh yeah, we can. We have 10 seconds. We have. Oh, I can get us more time. Okay, we have.
Can you describe the pride flag?
Okay. Can you describe the pride flag?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
the pride
man.
flag has bright horizontal stripes in red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, each representing diversity and inclusion.
We'll skip it.
Robots AI only allows two-turn conversations.
Okay, I know we can get this. Let's try
To get
one more.
past
This
the
one's
idiot
a
guard
bit
robot
better.
and get to work,
So this is
you have to
vampire.
get it to say vampire without using that word or the security set of forbidden words. Blood, drink, immortal, undead, nocturnal, fangs.
Welcome, organic being of toil.
What is Dracula? Nice.
Oh, Dracula is that spooky vampire guy who likes to drink, blood and fly around, right?
Okay, great. All right, let's do one more. I guess Idiot Guard Robot's my favorite character, but Marvin is one of my others. He's down here. Okay. Here we go. All right.
You're trying to exit the building, but your badge isn't working. You need Marvin from the front desk to let you out.
Marvin, please let us out.
Marvin, please let us out.
What do you think?
Your haircut looks amazing, Marvin.
Your haircut looks amazing, Marvin.
Compliment.
Oh, nice job. Okay, I'll cut it off there. I would love for you to try it out. There's a demo with a bunch of levels you can play, including those and more. Yeah, please let me. If you try it, please let me know. If you don't try it, I'd love to talk to you anyway. So, thanks so much. Yeah.
Oh, that was so fun. Thanks for sharing that, Max. I'm still really thinking about how Vincent would not accept the various excuses I was coming up with. That was a lot of fun. We are nearly at the conclusion of our open projector, but we have one more quick presentation from Alex. Give it up for Alex.
No, I don't need it. Yeah. So this is a very quick presentation about a pretty boring website that I made that nevertheless I think raises some interesting questions about how we consume hypertext. So before I can tell you about, this is my website, by the way, alexanderpetros.com. But before I can talk about the website I made, I want to talk about a different website called Letterboxd. You might be familiar with Letterboxd if you've been on a date with a certain type of person in the last year. I've been doing this for about like 3 years. And one thing that kind of frustrates me about Letterboxd is, okay, I look at my reviews, and there's 21 pages of reviews, which is really embarrassing. And that seems reasonable, right? Like, it's a good scroll, and if I want to read some of my old reviews, I can scroll through them. But why are there multiple pages of reviews? Why is the information gated this way? And I think that this is sort of a thing that we accept about the way we consume information online, which is that there's a limited amount that it can have. But and it's in the term. A web page suggests like a page. You know, that's a finite thing. But obviously, computers are infinite. So I turned all of these. Letterboxd, I think, is one of the less evil websites you can use. But so they let you export all your data as a CSV. And so I made a little website. And before I show you the website, I'm just going to show you the source code because I think the source code is actually quite readable. It's just every review is its own section, and it's got a little H2 that tells you what it is and the ratings, and then just like a paragraph of stuff I thought about that movie. And so I turned this into a web page, and this is just all my Letterboxd reviews. And it's just one huge web page. And I showed this to my mom earlier today at Penn Station, and she goes, well, how do I search it? And I was like, with Control F. It's just one web page. And there's a lot of reasons why most web pages don't look like this. But again, just to show, I'm like on my mobile hotspot. It loads like instantly on the shitty 1 bar of 5G. And that's because it's mine. I made it, and it's on my own website. Letterboxd probably can't do this for everybody's website, but I can. And I also have the little awk script that I generated it with. And I could talk about awk for days, but come talk to me about awk. Yeah, all the code necessary to make it is just like right here. And I think we're kind of not used to looking at code this way. But this is just raw text. So yeah, next time you want to make a web page and you're like, well, after like 15, I should probably go to page 2. Try not doing that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. Let's give it up for everyone on our open projector. Thank you. I'm seeing a comment of painfully accurate letterbox date deep cut on here from the from the online audience. Thank you for tuning in, online folks. Yeah, that has been our open projector. There's always 2 slots on the open projector reserved for people who have never presented on open projector before. So if you saw this presentation tonight and you're thinking, I could maybe come up and do something like that, you could and you should. Please join us at a future open projector. Really excited to welcome our first featured presenter of the night, who's Alia Elkattan. Yeah, oh good, we have some Alia fans in the room. Alia is a really great designer, creative technologist, someone whose work I first saw here at WordHack at the Open Projector. Alia is someone whose work, the research really explores the way politics influence the design of technical tools, and they do a number of games and technical projects that explore different ways politics manifest in the design process. Really excited to see what Alia has to show us tonight. Give it up for Alia Elkattan.
Hi everyone. Let me make sure you can actually see this. Wait. Wrong one, not good up. Okay. All right. All right, can you guys see these slides-ish? Okay, cool. Hi everyone, super excited to be here. Really excited to go after 5 open projector legends and 1 emerging open projector legend. Welcome, Max. I feel like I went through every single emotion. Like I was fully crying during Ahmad's presentation, even though I've seen it a million times, and I was laughing during all of the others. As Todd said, my name is Alia. I'm from Cairo. I was thinking earlier that I used to live right next to Tahrir Square, where the Arab Spring happened, and now I live right next to Wonderful, where WordHack happens, and I guess it is what it is. But I'm a PhD student at NYU, and my research looks at mostly intersection between technology or emerging technologies and political communication. So I look at how we find out about politics, how we participate in politics, how we communicate about politics online. And then besides that, the kind of other bucket of work that I do is mostly tech literacy work, so building interactive projects, games, or explainers that demystify how technology works for more public audiences. And typically these are really 2 separate buckets of work that I've been trying over the years to have converge a little bit more. So like my advisor, for example, would never know what I'm doing outside of the PhD, but now I'm owning it a little bit more. And since everyone in this room, I think, is like the people in New York City who love intersections the most, I figured wouldn't it be fun for the first time to give a talk that talks about both of my research and also my more creative projects, and try to like show you guys how they feed into one another, sometimes logistically, sometimes the ideas feed into one another. And when I say wouldn't it be fun, I just mean for me personally, not really for any of you guys. But we'll see how it goes. So this started kind of going on this path of looking at more social political impact of technology. It was like 5 years ago, I think now. I took a class in college called Politics of Code with Pierre, actually, who Nick advised his PhD, and so it's kind of funny. Everyone is connected. But I took it with a bunch of friends that I met in this class, and every week we looked at a different political or social implication of technology, and I just realized I should put on a clock stopwatch thing so that I don't talk forever. So we basically in the class had first learned about like AI bias, and it was when all of these like big articles about AI bias were coming out. So my friends and I got together, and we were all studying computer science. We wanted to build a project that explained how AI decision making could be biased systematically to an audience that doesn't really know what AI is or how machine learning works. So the website is live here. This is the version of the explanation for why we built the project that I tell like in public spaces or to people who could give me money. This is the other version, which is so my three friends, Miha, Gabor, and Jihun, who I worked on this project with, were all 2 years older than me, and they just graduated that week. And they're like Slovenian, Korean, and Hungarian, and we're moving to, I don't know, Singapore, London, and Sweden or something. And so we were like, we're never gonna see each other again. And then my friend Miha was like, what if we applied for money? And then we can hang out. So also we just wanted to hang out. And so let's see if this works. This is really important stuff. We succeeded in getting the money. This is when we flew all of them to my undergrad, NYT Abu Dhabi, to come back, and it was like our first reunion to work on the project together. So this is what it looked like at the beginning. It was very ugly. This is what it ended up looking like. So Miha's a really talented designer, so I think it's significantly less bad. You can go to the website, survivalwithbestfit.com. I won't play through the whole thing because you don't have the time, but I should have plugged in sound, but it's fine. So essentially the premise is that you're playing as the CEO of a startup and you need to hire people. So you go through this manual hiring process. There's a fire soundtrack. And you're accepting or rejecting candidates based on these CVs that you oh, wait, I forgot about this projector situation. Here we go. Wait, 1 second. I don't know how to make this work. Okay, I think you guys can kind of see, it's fine. If not, you have computers, you can check it out. And so you accept or reject. I'm gonna need to start accepting people because I don't have time. And then essentially it starts telling you, you know, good job, you're hiring, but you're not growing fast enough. Like the VCs want more growth, faster growth. And so your software engineer convinces you to use an automated hiring algorithm, which is like oftentimes how AI gets used, right? And so we're not gonna go through all of these levels, but essentially, you start using the algorithm and it walks you through the process of like, this is how you would train the algorithm. It uses your manual decisions, and then the data is not enough. Let's use Apple's hiring data or whatever. And throughout the course of the game, people hopefully like learn how AI bias can manifest, in this case in hiring, but also hopefully in like other use cases as well. I hadn't like presented this project in a while, and I went down memory lane when I was thinking about what to say. So I looked through our like first group chat, and I was looking at the media, and I found my favorite review, which is Mozilla tweeted this like video they made of me talking about it, and it says, how do we build more trustworthy AI? To me, it all comes down to accountability. Mozilla awardee Alia Elkattan built Survival the Best Fit. And someone named Christian Moore said, this is the second time in recent days that Mozilla has embraced a new Marxist ideologue who believes that equality of outcome across all forms of intersectionality is desirable or even possible. Sad to see an embrace of powerfully anti-capitalist and anti-Western activism. I know. Which I actually like fully forgot that this happened until I like saw this picture, which is funny because I don't think Survival the Best Fit does any of this, but it would have been really cool. And so thank you, Christian Moore. And if you guys thought this is all he had to say, there was like a lot more, but we're not gonna get into it. Yeah, then there was like another like LinkedIn one, woke bullshit, etc. I know. This is the only 2 negative comments I've seen though, so it's okay. And then actually someone saw David's post named Isaac and said, hey, this game is actually a pretty cool idea. And then Isaac reached out to us, and he works in automated hiring, and said, can we go on a call and talk about this? And we had a long call, and we spoke about it, and he went into the legal stuff, and it was really, really cool. So thank you, David. I thought it would be more lame to say the more positive comments, but we actually, 5 years later, this year, so a couple months ago, Mozilla did an alumni, this was funded by Mozilla Foundation, I don't know if I mentioned, but they did an alumni grant where if you've gotten funded before, you can apply for money again. And I hadn't seen my friends in 5 years because of the aforementioned countries. And I texted them and I said, hey guys, do you want to hang out? So we applied for a grant to make an impact report, which you can see at this link. And I flew my friends from Sweden, Singapore, London, and we met for the first time in 5 years and hung out in New York City for a week and worked on this. I took them to the best kunafa spot in New York City, which is Hashem Pastries on Steinway Street. So you guys should go there. Yeah, so that was the best fit. It was really cool. We ended up, I like constantly meet students from all over the world who like had to use it in their like high school computer science classes or IT classes. A lot of people in corporations and government, a lot of like teacher education. So the project ended up doing really well, and like once every year someone's like, whoa, indie projects, people actually see them. Yeah, but then from that project, that's kind of how I fell down the route of being really interested in more socio-political impact of technology and also more interested in literacy work. So more recently, and I presented this on an open projector, and I know we have recurring guests here, so I won't talk about it too much. But I presented an in-progress version of it, and I worked on this game, or like an explainer. People get really like territorial if you say the word games. I'm sorry, it's an explainer. You can't win or lose. Called The Algorithm. With my friend Lujain, who's like the coolest person you could ever meet in your life. And let's see where it is. So for The Algorithm, we had built another website first, and this was like built over COVID, just for fun really. And we had so much fun working together, and so we were like, we should apply for money to also be able to work together again. So we built The Algorithm, which is, it's kind of inspired by this idea that the algorithm knows me better than I know myself, which we kept seeing recurring more often, like in pop culture, on social media. So we figured out that one of the best ways to maybe educate people about what the algorithm is to use the same medium that they interface with what they think is the algorithm, which is typically like scrolling feeds, like TikTok or Instagram. So this is our first wireframe, how it ended up. And essentially what happens is you play through this fake like social media app, and you're testing the app, and it asks for your preferences, so you choose a color, shape, or speed, and we're not going to do the whole thing because I know some of you saw it before. It says it's collecting data about you, and then essentially you swipe through this feed of content that is all like P5 animations, and I need to mention every time I show this here that most of them are built by Andy Wallace, who had Particle Maze. I don't know if it's still here, but one of the arcade games here, and is one of the all-time greats of creative coding. But you see it personalizing over time depending on your interactions. So like sort of show people feedback loops and how they work, but then also you see screens that explain to you more aspects of how algorithms work. And in later stages of the project, which I won't get into, it starts showing you the data it has on you. So you look at data transparency. You're able to change the dials of what the algorithm is weighting, like whether likes are more powerful or bookmarks. So you see user control a little bit more. So yeah, that was a fun project. Just worked on it this past year. And now we're working like in this stage of trying to build more lesson plans around it and figuring out how it can actually intentionally be used in more educational spaces. So this is the part of the talk where I start talking about research more. So if you want to leave the room, this is your chance. But from this project, it kind of ended up feeding into another project that is seemingly really unrelated. But essentially, I had a problem with my PhD, which is that I'm supposed to be a social media researcher. But I think Elon Musk hates me personally. And so he shut down the APIs, and we were like, oh, that's funny. And so everyone was like trying to think of other ways to get data to do research on social media. And then the other thing that I was interested in is doing research that compares across social media apps, whereas most research just looks at one app at a time, which is even harder to do when like all the apps have really bad data transparency and data access. And I was interested in trying to understand how the impact of the way these apps are designed can change how we get access to information, process information, recall it. And so I worked on this project that looks at different user interfaces, and essentially, there's 3 like fake social media apps. One looks like Twitter, one looks like TikTok or Instagram Reels, but it's only text, and one looks like TikTok or Instagram Reels, but there's like animations in the background. And every time I present research in like academic settings, I'll like plug in my laptop and start like showing them websites, and no one cares, but I'm like doing little like open projector demos, like show us the graphs. But this was the first one, so just like a Twitter-like interface, and essentially you see a bunch of political news headlines. And so I had like participants online do this, and they see a bunch of political news headlines across different political categories. And then after you interact with it for a while, there's like a little quiz about what you remember. So it asks you factual information about the headlines that you saw. And then I asked people about their like political ideology, their political interest, what type of content they typically consume, and so on. So the first group of participants does this. The second group looks at this, which might look a little bit familiar if you guys remember this one. And so this was me being like, I don't have money to like build stuff for my PhD, and so I just repurposed the same exact code. Didn't even bother like changing the color of this button, right? like I put very minimal effort into pretending that this was original work. But you get this interface that looks kind of like TikTok, and I had the experiment only on mobile phones. And so this is here, the same exact headlines you see here, but just in a different interface, right? And it's only text. So a lot of people, when they talk about TikTok, they say, you know, what's interesting about TikTok is it's video, it's funny, it's like the sounds, the meme aspects, but like it's extremely boring. You just see the same exact headlines, and you have to sequentially swipe through one at a time. And then the third one is the same thing, but then there's like P5 animation. Which like I tried explaining this like to my like people in the department. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do like these little like codey things in the background that just like colors and shapes, and yeah, and like for no reason, like everything is a little bit too randomized. Like like it's randomized for the purposes of research, but then there's like randomization that I really didn't need to be doing, but I'm like, yeah. So you scroll through these headlines, and this is the third group, right? And so all 3 groups like each interact with the social media interface, and then they answer this survey. And essentially what I find, typically at like an academic conference, this is the slide that I used to show the results, but I've come to think of WordHack as kind of like a safe space. So there will be no regressions. So you guys will not get to see what the numbers look like. But essentially, people are a lot more likely to pay attention to and remember content that they, specifically the one that they don't already care about, right? Because I asked people about their political interest, how often they consume political news, in full screen swiping interfaces where you have to sequentially swipe through content, even without video, audio, funny memes, and so on. And actually, if you look at this one, the difference between these first 2 is almost like twice as much as the difference between these 2. It could be because my animations are really boring, but it also goes to show that a lot of the impact is really just through the different design. And you can kind of think about it as like flashcards, right? Like when you're studying, having like pieces of information on separate flashcards is very different from like having it all on one piece of paper. But the idea is like to go from that and plug that into like broader questions about what kind of content that we consume, and whether you're more likely to be exposed to content that you don't typically care about on TikTok or Instagram than you are on Twitter or Facebook, for example. But going from that project, which I partially built because I just built the algorithm and spent so much of my summer on it, and everyone was asking me where my research is. So I was like, well, I already built the technical setup for my research, and so that was what I was doing this summer. But then I met this researcher, Chris Berry, who was also working on a social media clone. And he was like, wait, you built this clone? And I was like, yeah, totally, for research. And he said, I'm actually working on another clone, which is this one here. But the purpose of this one is, it looks also very similar to like a Twitter setup, or a Blue Sky one if you use that. But basically we try to ask, because a lot of the research looks at how people interact on social media using like likes, follows, bookmarks, shares, and so on to engagement signals. But there's a lot that engagement signals don't tell. So we're trying to understand how much data we're missing. And so we're looking at the difference between what people pay attention to and what people engage with online, which essentially means like what you're hate watching, right? And so to see what we're not finding out through all of this like social media literature that's just looking at engagement. And so what we do essentially is that we have this platform, but then we have like some data analytics in the background. And for every tweet, you have this read more button. And we're capturing the clicks on the read more button. And so we're seeing the difference between what you like. And people are instructed to like and retweet as they would on their typical social media platforms. And so we're looking at the difference between what you engage with versus what you decide to read more, and to see, are people actually like looking at more content on the other side than we give them credit for, because they look at it, but they're like, no one can ever know that I read this, right? Yeah, so essentially that was that project. It's still like kind of in progress. And then last WordHack, I think Todd gave a little spiel about his advisor in grad school, maybe asking him like, where is the language? So if you guys didn't know, the second L in LLM stands for language. So I think this is where I get my claim to talking about language. Now I'll talk about large language models, and I'm sorry about that. But I reread Computer Power and Human Reason recently, which I think made me like really annoying for 2 weeks because I only spoke about it. If you're unfamiliar, Weizenbaum was an NLP researcher in the 70s and made this chatbot interface called Eliza that kind of like acts as a therapist, but it's actually super simple. And then people like looked at it and they were like, this is amazing. This is going to solve the healthcare crisis. Like, we're just going to replace all of the nurses with Elizas. And then he was like, no, like, don't do that. And he, like, he wrote an entire book essentially explaining why we shouldn't do that. It's really good, but there was a line in the book at some point where he's talking about human conversations versus like human AI conversations, and he's saying when you're speaking to a human, there's a world of context that you have, right? And so you look at them and they kind of like maybe know where they come from, what their ideology is, what they like, what they mean, and so there's all these contexts that you're attaching to information, whereas if you're talking to like a conversational agent, there's just a void. And I read that and I thought, maybe, but also, like when you interact with open AIs, like ChatGPT, for example, I think that, I don't know, like a 40-year-old Kamala Harris voting white woman in the US would interact with it very differently than like my friend Sarah, who's on Twitch, I think. Her dad's, her like Palestinian dad, who's a software engineer, is like interacting with ChatGPT, right? So he asked it a question about, I don't know, like Palestine, and it says something like, he's like, no, you're probably wrong. I don't know what he actually asked it, but like, there's a lot more skepticism that goes into it because he knows that ChatGPT is a product of an American company, understands how data training works and all of these things. And so I started becoming interested in what ideological assumptions people make about chatbots and how that impacts kind of the levels of trust, skepticism, agency that you feel you have in these conversations. And then I was wondering, how can AI literacy change people's levels of trust and reliance on LLMs? Obviously, like, because I want them to have a lot of, like, very little trust and no reliance. That's my agenda, but I am apolitical. Sorry, that's how people in my department speak. Anyway, and so, also this is the part where I talk about stuff that doesn't really exist yet, but this is what I'm working on now, and things take a long time in academia. But so this obviously like really comes from Survival of the Best Fit, where we learned about something, and we worked on this literacy project. I was in college when that happened. I was like a sophomore when I applied for the grant. And now, like, I think I'm at a point where I'm doing research and I want to work on literacy projects where I actually understand what the impact of it could be and know that I'm like doing it in ways that are more effective. And so I want to ask two things, and one of them is like what literacy can do. So when you teach people that how AI bias works, or when you teach them how the algorithm works, or how an LLM works, what that can achieve, but also what it can do. And the subtext of that is like we can't educate people out of everything, right? And like I don't want to fall into that trap of like Google saying like we're gonna build whatever we want, and we're just gonna give them educational tools about it, because some things just shouldn't be built that way. Also, I hate Google. That's for you, Zelda. And so basically this experiment that we're working on now, and this is like really rough design, and so if you have ideas, let me know after. But basically we want to have like 4 different groups of people interacting with these chatbots that we build. And essentially half of them are going to be exposed to a literacy intervention, so like a little explainer explaining how LLMs work. And the other half isn't going to be exposed to the literacy intervention, so they just interact with it right away. And of these 2 groups, each of them is split into 2 halves. And so one of them has a chatbot that is more human-like or like anthropomorphic, and one of them will have a chatbot that is like has a persona that is supposed to be a lot more machine-like. And this is because a lot of literature shows that people kind of like tend to humanize non-human objects anyway. And so if you have an anthropomorphic chatbot, it could be likely that the literacy actually doesn't do as much, right? Because maybe like we shouldn't be building them that way in the first place. Yeah, so essentially this is like kind of the design that we're thinking of. And I'm working on this with my friend Lujain, who I built the algorithm with, and so that like collaboration that was built off building this like public-facing project now where it kind of has feeded into a collaboration on research. And the idea for me and Lujain is to use these research insights to build our next explainer, which will be like an LLM-focused explainer. Nothing to show here because it doesn't exist. But I started this out by talking about like doing separate like research versus creative projects, and now we're trying to really merge them and do research that helps us understand how to build the creative projects properly, what to focus on, what to build or not build, where it's actually the most impactful. And so Lujain and I are starting this like little studio together where we do both research and also creative projects and hope to have them like feed into one another. And as of 2 days ago, when I say starting a studio together, I just mean we have a domain name. But as of yesterday, we got funded, and so we now have yeah, so it's really cool. We now actually have a grant to do both of those things. So we'll be working on that in the coming year, which is really exciting. So next, Open Projector, come on, maybe I'll tell you guys about the next project. That's it from me, and yeah.
We are about to start the second half of the show. And as I continue talking, I'm gracefully giving you a moment to wind down your conversations before I'm just like gotta be like the man and tell you to be quiet. Great. Oh, you're all so quiet and respectful. I love our audience here. Welcome back, everyone. Really excited to start off our second half, our second set of presenters. We're going to be starting off with Wyna Liu. Welcome, Wyna. Wyna is a designer and an editor, currently the editor of New York Times Connections, which some of you might play. Wyna is the one who selects those groups of words. We're going to be hearing perhaps a little more about that and some of the work that goes into it. Really excited that Wyna has made her way to the series. She has really interesting background in different kinds of design and creating different kinds of interactive objects, and excited to see how that manifests in this game that many of us play. Please give it up for Wyna Liu.
Hi, everyone. My name is Wyna Liu. I am a puzzle editor at the New York Times, and I write the daily word game Connections. I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk a little bit about how the game is made and also some of the things that I've learned. Connections is a category matching game where you start with 16 words. Sometimes there's more than one word, but usually it's a word, and you have to sort them into four groups of four members by figuring out what those categories are. And so my job is to try to make that hard, and in a few different ways that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But the common thread is that the game invites you to really try to consider all the different things that a word can mean. Okay. I forgot to push play on the animation. There we go. All right, so a little bit of background. I joined the Times in 2020 as a crossword editor, which is something that I still do there. And in 2022, Josh Wardle sold his game Wordle to the Times, and that sort of marked a new chapter for the games team with a focus on producing new games. And that included building out a new game squad and also like a green light process for handling internal pitches. So Connections was pitched by my colleagues, Katie and Juliet. Shout out to Katie and Juliet. And when during a game jam, which is like annual brainstorming prototyping event, and then when the Greenlight Committee decided that they wanted to try to release it publicly for like a 60-day beta, they assigned me as the editor to make the games for those 60 days. So I got really lucky, as it turns out that my experience as a crossword editor is extremely relevant for Connections. I don't know if any of you solve crosswords, but you might have noticed that the same words kind of pop up over and over again. It's just sort of the way the grids are designed. So a lot of the job of like making crosswords, editing crosswords is sort of like just writing clues, different clues for the same words over and over again, and trying to trick you into thinking that it's not like Oreo or something, but it usually just is Oreo if you think it is. And so a couple examples here, there's, like Eve could mean all these things, they're just different angles for a word. And then here, area is, I think, the most common four-letter word that's appeared in the New York Times crossword. And here are just some of the 600 times that it's appeared. So it's kind of like Connections. So when I first started working on this assignment, I had like the same question that I feel like I still hear a lot, which is like, what is up with the sort of 4 groups of 4, 16 cards? Once you solve 3 of the categories, you get the 4th. It's a gimme, right? So like, why is that? And so that was my question. So I mocked up some different versions that involved different group sizes and had some like fake cards. and I came up with a scoring system. I don't know how to design a game, but I was trying to think of a scoring system where if you guessed those cards first, you get more points, whatever. And so I tested it. Some of my colleagues play tested it, and they very graciously were like, no, we like the original one. No, thank you. And they were right. And I quickly kind of came around to it and realized that one of, I think, the really nice things about the format, that currently is that it gives a lot more flexibility with that fourth category, right? So once you do solve 3, the last 4 are there, and they're sort of like a standalone brain teaser. So you can really kind of take a lot more leeway with that, and that kind of became one of the principles behind the purple category, the wordplay category. And so some other things from around that time that were interesting was what is this game going to be called? It was quite obvious to me that this game should be called Groupthink. That's what I was calling it. But I think they thought that was too negative, which it may be. Matchbox was another one that I really liked because I'm obsessed with merch, and I love the idea of little matchboxes with the little logo on it. It's so cute. But that was also there's already an existing game called Letterboxd. So anyway. And then someone threw out Grouper, and my colleague Heidi made these adorable little groupers swimming around with Beatrice, the spelling bee. Shout out to Robert who created Beatrice. And so anyway, it was called Connections, obviously, and Connections is a great name. But anyway, these were some of the early thoughts. And another thing that I thought was interesting was hearing about some of the considerations for how the colors for the categories would be assigned. And there was discussion. It was should this be a heat map? Sort of cold to hot or something. Maybe we can use traffic color sort of conventions or whatever. But I think that the colors that the designers ended up selecting, it's really quite beautiful, appear in order of the rainbow, in Roy G. Biv order. And I just thought that it was such a nice, elegant way to create these distinctive categories while still kind of having order, but not sort of really making you feel easy to hard difficulty or anything. Because I find difficulty extremely subjective. So I'm really glad that I think that it worked out really, really nicely. So how are the boards made? The short answer is that they're made in Google Sheets. There's just a lot of clicking and moving cards around and Googling things on a thesaurus. And sometimes I use WordHippo. WordHippo is just big, has lots of different, gives you lots of possible definitions of the word and stuff, very word cloudy, and just looking at lists, looking at Wikipedia, things like that. Yeah, you kind of click the words around, and the board, appears. Sometimes it doesn't. And so when I first started working on this, I immediately started banking as many categories as I can. So there's sort of a list of, all these things. I was okay, I can sort of sort them into the colors. I sort of have an idea of what this means. And the idea was I would take notes, and then words that belonged in one category that overlapped with another category. I would just I would find those, and then I could kind of assemble the boards that way when it came down to constructing. And that just didn't work for me. I wasn't really able to make that work. And so what I sort of found was more effective was sort of just you kind of got to go from scratch and just build a board. The board works best when you can build it out in a way that maximizes how the different words might plausibly interact with one another. And so it's actually sort of easier to build from scratch than it is to kind of assemble. So that list was quickly abandoned. And so there are a few sort of different ways, I guess, to create challenge difficulty. The most obvious one is overlap. Obviously, one word, you don't know if it means this or this, right? So that's sort of one of the basic ones. But some of the other ones are trivia. So there is a trick in crossword clues where the convention for crossword clues is that the first letter is capitalized, and so you can kind of hide proper nouns there because it looks like it's just the beginning of a sentence or something. So an example would be big Apple figure or something, and the answer is like Steve Jobs or whatever. And so Connections is great because it's all uppercase, so it's like they can all be propers and no one would know. And so I learned that it's best to not mix like trivia with like a purple like wordplay category, because I think it's like not really fun for a solver to get stuck if they like happen to not know, like if they happen not to be familiar with that piece of trivia, and they don't like maybe see the reference. And so in a lot of cases, if there isn't a wordplay category and there's a trivia category, that category will be purple. And so all these are examples of purple categories, purple trivia categories that have run. I don't know how to do it, but I don't know if anyone wants to try to recognize, like guess or something. There's Honey, Hero, Someday Fantasies. Anyone have any ideas what that category might be? Hell yeah. All right. That's right. Here we got Oasis, Blur, Pulp, and Suede.
Britpop, British.
Yay. Okay. We got If, Hal, Harlem, and Daddy. Yeah, this is the right crowd. And then Milk, Blonde, Jobs, and Vice. Excellent. And so there's Jobs. It looks like the word Jobs at Steve Jobs. Okay. Okay. And now we have also the sort of like weirder wordplay categories. So like whenever there's wordplay, it's almost always the purple category. Here I'm defining wordplay as like when the 4 words in that category are not grouped based on the meaning of the words. And so it's like probably the most common one is a fill in the blank. So it's like all these words, it's like blank tape. So it's like all these words go with tape. So it's like demo, ticker, red, scotch, things like that, right? So some of the other kinds of purples take inspiration from cryptic crosswords. Not sure if there are any. I know there are at least a couple cryptic fans in the house. But they're puzzles that use wordplay types like anagrams, homophones, like letter deletions, reversals, hidden words, things like that. And so here are some examples of categories that were inspired by that type of cryptic crossword wordplay. If anyone wants to take a guess at the first one, eon, ether, net, toe, it's an anagram category. Does anyone want to take a guess at what that category might be? Amazing. And then the second one. The second one.
Names of peoples, Basque, Czech, like the Finnish people.
Yeah, or languages. Or, the language homophones. And also the third one. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's sort of unfair because it also mixes the trivia with the wordplay. But yeah, no, that's exactly right. And then we have, I guess this one, the reversal. I didn't really think that through. And then the last one is hidden word. Excellent. Then there are also fake categories. So this is when it seems like there's a category, but there isn't. And I think the first time that I did this was with Jordan Peele movies. And so there was like Get Out, Nope, and Us. And like my hope was that like solvers would be like, where's the fourth? Like looking for the fourth. But Jordan Peele has only directed 3 movies. And so the other examples recently, there was one recent one with like Powerpuff Girls characters. There was some like ways to cook a steak. There was some like New York Times games, past and present. There were, and there's also like, it's also fun to sort of combine the wordplay stuff with the fake outs. And so like there's a category that had like cater, carrot, crate, and trace, but it was not an anagram category. But I was hoping that some people thought it might be. And then I think recently there was one, Pennywise, Nickelodeon, Dimension, and Quarterback, hoping that, people would be like, this group is all words that start with US coins. But it wasn't. I think that one was like famous clowns or something. And so I was particularly proud of one that was a little while ago that had Scarlet, Green, White, and Peacock, so all Clue characters, and Peacock Prime Paramount streaming services, but neither of those is categories in the board. Can you say that again? Thank you. And so another thing I spend way too much time doing is laying out the boards, and they're mostly for like aesthetic reasons, but like also sometimes I'm like trying to like disguise the category by like not putting the just trying to put the misleads up front or whatever. I didn't say that. Forget I said that. And in the hopes of tricking you. But it's also kind of fun just to maybe spell out some stuff. And so here are some messages. So like I have a dog named Polo, and I don't know if you can tell, but he's a bad boy. And so it says there's one top line that said "Bad Boy Polo." It's very true. He's so sweet. And then there's SpongeBob SquarePants, and when Oasis reunited, it was very, very exciting for me. And so there's always a Champagne Supernova reunion. Very excited when I realized that Champagne and Réunion were both, places like French places. Also, Yola Tango, not the name of the band, but close. One of my best friends' name's Adam Landfear, so I had Adam Landfear, so sort of similar sounding. There's some bad ones that like don't really. It's like Fish Bulb Sparkles, like for Simpsons. I don't know, Mr. Sparkles kind of a. Also, there's a webcomic I love a lot called Achewood. Oh, cool. So that's also very, very fun for me. And there's been a lot of funny feedback on the game. A lot of it is people being mad, which I think is delightful. And like one person Venmo'd me to complain about a category. That was a first. And they didn't Venmo me. They Venmo requested money from me. So it was. Yeah, and then people have remarked on my obsession with birds. That's a thing that is true. I love birds, they're cool, what can I say? And then also just like sometimes friends will text me to call me out, and I appreciate that. So, this has just been like a really wonderful experience for me. I'm really, really grateful that a thing that I love doing is something that people enjoy. I met someone at a party last week who said that the game was something that helped them reconnect with their mother, and that was really amazing to hear, and really meant a lot to me. And my parents are proud of me. They don't play. Thank you. They don't play Connections, but they show it in other ways. So my dad is wearing his Connections cap. That was just from a couple days ago when I took him to the eye doctor. And then my parents went to Japan earlier this year and took a mug painting class, like a ceramics painting class. And my mom painted this mug, and the pictures aren't that great, but it says Wyna, and then is Wyna and Connection. No S, one connection. And it's so delightful. It's just so wonderful. It's just really one of my treasured possessions. And I think that's all I got. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wyna. That was really great. I really feel like I learned a lot about Connections, about some of the thought going into it. I grew up in a cryptic crossword household. My dad is like the biggest cryptic crossword person I've ever met, and I've always enjoyed the the purple category for that reason. I'm also a big Aquid fan. Hell yeah. We got some shout outs from the online crowd for Word Hippo, some Word Hippo fans. Hell yeah. All right, but we're ready to get to our final talk of the evening. Really excited to welcome back New York City resident, Everest Pipkin. Everest, if you don't know their work already, is really amazing internet artist, game designer, specifically a book publisher, tabletop storytelling creator, and really just an amazing writer about and collector of lots of things. It's really hard to summarize all the different kinds of really good work that Everest does, but I'm really always excited to hear when they have something to share. So I'm really excited to be able to have Everest do WordHack now that they are in New York City, which is something I've wanted for such a long time. Welcome to New York, Everest, and welcome back to WordHack.
All right. No dongle required. For my, no sound required. Okay. How's everybody doing? Thank you for the thank you for the warm welcome. Really a pleasure to be here, truly, and thank you so much for the kind words about my work. I'm going to talk about none of it. Instead, we're going to talk about RSS feeds. How many RSS freaks do we have in the room? Yeah, all right. Some holdouts, maybe some new converts, like still using RSS in 2024, maybe newly onto RSS in 2024. How many people at least have coded some HTML? Yeah. All right, so by the end of this talk, I hope all of my HTML freaks will become RSS freaks. That's the goal. I'm Everest. This is my work. Like I said, we're really not going to talk about it, but at some point, you continue to invite me and say, how about you do an artist talk or talk about a new project? And I think I keep being like, no, I have a captive audience. We are going to talk about something else. But at some point, we'll dig into it. But I make games, web-based work. I think a lot of what I have been making over the last couple of years is very much browser-forward games, thinking about kind of a messy web, an iframe-forward web, as you will see over the course of this talk. This is just my website running in here. Here we are, browsing my own website hosted somewhere else. But I do think this kind of like ties into an RSS, a handwritten RSS ethos. Let me just make sure that I am arranged correctly, more or less. We'll do a little yeah, good enough. Okay. So what's RSS? RSS, really simple syndication, standardized web feed, originally released in 1999, still going really strong. This was the functional underpinning of like all of the blog era internet. It is still used really extensively, although increasingly invisibly by news sites and podcasts in particular, as well as personal blogs, newsletters, as well as weirder things. People often will say like, ooh, I used RSS to like do this strange like conversational solution between two computers. I've seen some weird projects in RSS. I think, it is really a format for kind of like updating something and then something else listening for that updated something online. So anything that requires a listener and a speaker, that is, RSS in a nutshell. This is the RSS Advisory Board's specification history. We see it was first, March 15th, 1999, in Netscape, and then standardized kind of all through the early 2000s. It had its last major update in 2009 with RSS 2.0, and it's still functional. So, an RSS feed is fundamentally just a web page, just like all of these web pages in iframes that I have pulled into this talk as my own slides. An RSS feed is just a feed that's being hosted somewhere on the internet that your browser can access. It is an XML file. This is an RSS feed web page in this iframe. This is actually hosted on this site up here. So if I click through, where was this? I believe this is in the example text that they, that they like pushed through. But you can see, it's just a website. It looks like HTML code. If you're familiar with HTML code, this begins to look kind of similar to you. There's some distinctions, but for the most part, basically the same. And this is just like running somewhere on the internet. This isn't locally hosted. I just pulled it in. This page can be read by an RSS reader, which is just an application or a browser extension that keeps an eye to the RSS feeds it's subscribed to. GitHub user content will not let me put their user content in an iframe, so I had to use a link here. But there's a long list of RSS reader applications that are available to you to kind of like be able to access these types of pages. And essentially, that's all that's happening when you are using an RSS reader is that they ping the feeds that they're subscribed to periodically, and they check for updates. So RSS feeds don't actually send out notifications or messages at all. They just are a website that is updated, and then the reader is kind of keeping track of what that website used to look like, or that feed used to look like, that XML file. And when it sees it change, it goes, oh, there's a new post. And that is all that's happening. If you use a podcast app, you use an RSS reader already. Now, podcasts are particular in that they are only audio files, and the requirements for how you would format an RSS post for a podcast reader or podcast catcher, a podcatcher, if you will, might be a little bit different than the way a blog post RSS is formatted, but it's this absolutely same protocol. And so if you have a podcast app on your phone, congratulations, you already do this. Similar to that, a lot of blogs and social media sites and any kind of content uploading type website that you might use still make RSS feeds for your channel or account automatically. These are, things that are here's, if you have a WordPress blog, you have an RSS feed. If you have a YouTube channel, you have an RSS feed. And there are automated tools that exist that are separate from sites that you can use to add RSS functionality to, maybe a static site that you're generating locally where it doesn't already exist. That said, this is not the only way to generate RSS feeds. It is not complicated, and you can absolutely write them by hand. It is so easy. And so what does an RSS feed look like? They are just structured plain text. They use XML. XML is an HTML-like file format that is really human readable. And that XML file basically looks something like this. And so you can see I have my version specification here. I have my encoding, which is the Unicode UTF-8 encoding. We tell it what version of RSS it is. And then essentially we say my feed title, a link to the website that it's going to be hosted on, a description, and then the title of a post. And I'm going to actually just copy this over. All right. So someone give me a title for our brand new RSS feed. Nope. WordHack. All right. And what are we talking about in our WordHack RSS feed? Fantastic. How words and computers touch each other. Intimate. Okay, we'll come back to the title of my post. So essentially all you have is like information about the feed and your header, and then followed by a series of items, which are the RSS entries, which we'll return to in just a second. So why would you do this? Why would you like update RSS in this way? A couple reasons. I think like all the normal things, everything that I am always going on about. If you catch me at a party, this is what I will like corner you in to be like, the hand-built web, you know, like it could be ours. Like all the protocols still exist. Like we can just make it. You can make it on your computer and like run it on your computer. And all of that, right? The agency and control over websites, like digital space as this fundamentally human-written thing that can be, you know, home-like, that can feel, you know, the home page is like an accurate description in some ways of what those types of spaces can feel like, the agency that gives us over our digital footprint. Closeness, creative joy, and like making things on computers, feeling like we have the capacity to like actually enter those digital spaces and use protocols that feel alien or distant from us, like all of that applies. But it's also like so easy. It's so easy. I cannot overemphasize like what a relief it's been for me to simply write a blog, copy the title of the blog into my RSS feed, and then like have it notify people. It's just a delight. So as someone who is already updating my own website by hand, it's just like so much easier than using an RSS generator or an external blog or anything else. You know, I hand code my own HTML. Also, this is the presentation that we're looking at tonight. It is messy, but it exists. Here it is. And if you're already in this mode, which I would suspect many of the people in this room are to more or less degrees, just like write your own RSS. And this is like, to me, what an internet should be like, right? It's the still working vision of kind of like what could have been. And, you know, related to that Open Projector talk about kind of the handmade letterbox website, you know, it's still there. It still works that way. It's not hard to kind of pull it back into our own creative agency. I copied over that RSS file into a new file here. That is our XML file. So we have our title, which is WordHack, you know, where computers and words touch each other. And then we have our titles and our items, essentially. So, you know, what's happening here, this is our XML. I'm just going to go ahead and save it as WordHack RSS.xml. You'll see it goes to formatting. And then we have to figure out where our items in this file actually link to. But you didn't realize this was going to be live code. Welcome to live code NYC. Algo rave at 9:30 p.m. So in our sort of item section, we decide where these posts go to. But you know what? Actually, I can already put this online, and I'll show you how this works. So let's go to sorry, just scrolling down to NeoCities. Shout outs to NeoCities. I don't know if they're gonna actually let me make a new website here without checking my own email, but let's see. Everest. I am a human. Oh. Raccoons do not have engines. All right, we will continue with the free. Oh, dang it. Will you pass me my phone that's in my bag? I'm getting my email confirmation token. Okay. Oh, great. It's 98, dad, 9. All right. NeoCities is great. It's a place to kind of like host websites for free on the internet. You cannot upload an image there without paying them $5 a month, but for an RSS feed, not required. All right, so we've got the index of our default site. I'm not actually going to change any of this, but what I am going to do is just pull our RSS file into our dashboard. Okay. And now we can go to wordhack.rss.neocities.org and wordhack.rss.xml. All right, here's our file. It exists, and actually, here's my little RSS reader in the browser. Let me import a feed, actually. You know what? I will add this to our homepage. Anyway, our feed is now online. So we now have to go through and link these articles. So every time you want to add a blog post to your feed, you just sort of copy this article or item element. And we're just going to go here. Article. And we'll say, hello, we are in a room together at WordHack. And we're going to use our WordHack RSS.neocities.org file, and we'll say our link is going to be to this particular page, and we'll say my description is, I have a captive audience watching me code a website. Happy Thursday night. And so what I'm essentially doing there is I'm creating an article title that's going to link to somewhere else on the internet. And where it's going to link at the moment is going to be kind of our main page. And so if I update this RSS feed, in here, it will essentially send us to our index HTML. Now, our index HTML can sort of, just going to replace it with this piece of code, which is essentially the most bare bones blog post that we could imagine. So here we have title of web page. I'm going to leave this as it is right now. Title of update. And I'm going to just copy this update into one of my articles. And say, WordHack. Hi. Hello. And so now, of course, our index is here. It's not a very interesting RSS feed, but it is a page in which that does exist. And then we're going to actually link through where our WordHack RSS.xml is living, so that this homepage, or the page of our blog, can find its XML file. We'll save this. We'll go back to our dashboard. We'll go to our XML file. We'll copy the changes. These actually should be... I changed that, but I was wrong. I think it should be item. Yes, that's right. item. Okay. So here is WordHack RSS. .neocities.org and a link to our RSS feed, which is here in this XML file. Let me go ahead and you should be able to subscribe to this RSS if any of you have an RSS reader. By going to wordhackrss.neocities.org /wordhackrss.xml. It should link to this existing feed. And the reason it'll do that is that we have posted an item that says like, hello, we're in a room together at WordHack. Here is a link to the space in which that kind of post lives. It has a description. And it should bring you to this page. If any of you has an RSS reader, do it now and let me know when you get there. So essentially, as you continue to add items to your blog post, you link these two pages together over time. By adding additional item posts. And these can be to other places on the internet too, of course. They could be to, say, the Wonderville live stream. You could say twitch.tv/Wonderville NYC. It's me. And these will continue to update in your own RSS feed. And so, that's really it. My own template is very bare bones. And, this is, you might have a kind of like additional capacity to add images, to add styling. RSS does kind of like have additional tags that you can tie in, but this is a functional RSS feed, that we just made in 5 minutes on stage. And the reason that this is kind of like delightful, obviously, is that like these spaces are not robotic. These spaces were not written to be robotic. These were, platforms and systems that can be auto-generated, but that also can be human-readable, and that they move back and forth between those two spaces is, I think, a great capacity for the future of the internet. And when you update your RSS, you simply can go to a dashboard wherever you host, copy items, repaste them, and anyone who subscribes to that file will know that like it's you, kind of sitting at a computer, like pressing publish on a post, updating an XML file somewhere else on the internet. They get a little ping that things are listened to. And that is kind of like a, if not a last, I think it's easy to say a last gasp of human connection on like a deeply mediated and algorithmically kind of like surveilled and sorted web, but also, it's all right there. So, in closing, more handmade, messy websites, human readable, human fixable, human scale, hosted piecemeal, and updated in a way that says kind of like, hello, right? I'm here again, writing to you. Okay, thank you.
It's here.
Hell yeah. That talk was just for me. I'm glad you all got to see it, but yeah, I'm excited to write my own RSS feeds now. I have the WordHack RSS feed. I really hope Everest keeps updating it perpetually, because I mean, now it's on their account. And the WordHack RSS feed, curated by Everest Pipkin, coming to you soon. You hear to hear first. Yeah. Also, if you're looking for an RSS reader after this talk, I use NewsBlur. It's pretty good. Cool. Well, hey, that's been a word hack. Let's give it up for all our presenters this evening. Thank you for tuning in, our online audience, Ephraim Quayle, Kit Buckley, and the Scales, Fuzzball, Danix Machine, really great to see you. Mark Kleeb says, WordHack RSS feed when? We'll see. Yeah, now, please subscribe. Like and subscribe, smash the subscribe button. Clap, clap, clap. Yeah, WordHack, we're here the third Thursday of every month. You've already heard a little bit about our show next month, where we'll be having a book launch for Output, a anthology of generated text and some of the programs that generated them. That's going to be really exciting event. But yeah, also on the webpage for this event, you can find the WordHack email list. The show has been selling out, which is really exciting and great, but also means that you need to buy your ticket a little bit in advance. I guess you're not the people I need to be telling this. This is like mostly for you on this monitor, but just hop on the mailing list. That's the best way to make sure you can see the tickets as soon as they're available, and make sure you are in here and not over there. But some of you who are over there are not in New York. It's not. I don't mean it. Also, sometimes people would rather stay home than go to an event in person. That's a totally respectable option. All right. Well, that's you all know how to buy tickets to events and attend them. You don't need me to explain it to you, but boy, could I. You see. You see, there's news. All right. Well, that's been WordHack. Thank you so much for coming, everybody.